let's talk about what are the legalities involved in this as the strike goes on, Charlie?
Well, there are a couple of legalities. One of the big things that I think, first of all, is it legal to strike? And I think the short answer is yes, if it's deemed a legal strike. Well, what does that mean? That means that if you're striking over wages or working conditions, which it looks like they are, then it is a legal strike. Simple, right?
Yeah.
What about an illegal strike, like blocking the entranceway? That is an illegal strike. What about what they call, or what they could consider an unfair labor practice? That would be an illegal strike, and that is barred under probably collective bargaining as well as the laws for striking, which would be under the National Labor Relations Act. So there are some legalities. Now, these people are pretty astute in how to strike, and the union is going to do it. But the only little issue here is when you block entranceways and block access into the company, that could be deemed a problem. I don't think it's going to be a problem, but it could be. That's one issue. This is a legal strike. The other issue is, can the president, can Congress, can anybody order these auto workers back? I mean, they're causing millions of dollars and ancillary business loss, et cetera, et cetera. And the short answer is no, they cannot. Difference is, and the law is, these are not public employees, public sector employees, like police officers, like teachers, for example. So even though it may be obvious to a lot of people, they have a legal right. So when the president says that he's going to send his team to come in and maybe negotiate, the reality is that the president cannot order these auto workers back. Can't do that. Unlike we had an issue with the train people. There's a specific law where you operate trains in this country. The president does have some jurisdiction to order them back to work. So that's a law there. And the other issue I find very interesting is these workers are getting strike pay. There's a fund. It's about $825 million.
$500 a week?
$500 bucks a week. But here's the issue here. And this is, I was just actually just talking about this. What about, okay, if you're on the picket line with a sign saying UAW, you get $500. That's through the UAW strike fund. It's not through the employer. So if the employer, like Chrysler, like Stellantis or Ford, they do not have to pay a striking worker. But what about a layoff? What if General Motors, and we've seen it, lay off people that are not striking? Do they get strike pay or do they get unemployment pay, for which
I would think that's unemployment pay, right?
Could they get both?
Well, they can't get both. You get one or the other. Now, I would say, and this is a dispute, I don't think it's been challenged. Shawn Fain, the president of the union, said he's going to give strike pay. However, I would argue it should be unemployment pay because those workers that were laid off, which is the test of unemployment, through no fault of your own.
So are these collective bargaining members? Are the union employees
that are
laid off? Okay.
So we're only striking.
Follow your hypothetical.
Well, we're only just pick like in Wayne, Michigan. That's a Ford plant.
That 400 or 600 people laid off.
They just laid off because you can't make you can't. The other plants are affected by this strike. Now, again, it may not be an issue. I don't know if anybody's going to challenge it, but the issue is you don't really want to deplete your strike fund if you're a union. I would say the union should go and those employees should go and apply for unemployment.
Yeah, Mr. Fain, it's an advantage to him if the state is paying them through unemployment money as opposed to coming out of his $800 million strike fund.
It is. It is. Now, again, no one's challenged it yet, but there is that issue there, and I think there are laws that someone should come up and
it does point out the complexity of this type of strike, where you have some people are going to work still, and
most people are going to work, right?
Yeah, most people are. Most UAW workers still on the job, collecting full pay. Then you have these workers who are walking the line getting strike pay, which is minimal. And then you have these
laid off
employees.
So they're in this weird situation. So it's actually a genius move on the part of the union to only strike at a couple of plants, because we know that the couple of these plants have a ripple effect on other ones. Although we'll find out tomorrow if there'll be more
Charlie,
plants.
Is the law involved in telling these companies that they can't bring in non-union workers to replace the striking workers?
So the scabs is the bad word. They can. An employer can replace a striking worker. They can do that. Now, the issue is, after the strike, does that auto worker in this example get his or her job back? And the answer is yes. So you cannot discriminate for striking. So that's an excellent point.
So your job is saved.
Yes,
while you're striking.
That your job is saved while you're striking. But that's crossing the picket lines. Who would want to do that?
Yeah.
How much do they get paid? Nurses. We had a nursing strike, UAW strike as well. The hospital brought in replacement nurses. In this case, it was
feels
up in Pontiac.
Necessary.
So Rochester.
In healthcare,
Yeah,
right?
in healthcare when you've got patients at risk.
So there are a lot of little laws, lots of laws to pertaining to the strike. There you go.
Thank gosh we had you here, Charlie. We got another big case coming. Just happened yesterday. One local community banned pit bulls. Charlie will break that down for us next on The Verdict. All right, Charlie is back with us. Just yesterday, Grosse Pointe Shores, the city council banned having pit bulls because of this incident that happened back in June involving Lions running back David Montgomery's pit bull.
Yeah, apparently the lion was walking his pit bull. His
living girlfriend was.
His living girlfriend,
Yeah.
and apparently the pit bull then attacked a dog,
Yes.
a 14-year-old dog, and bit it so hard it had to amputate the leg.
Yes.
Okay, so then the city council said, let's get together and let's ban pit bulls. Can we just ban? It's called specific breed legislation or specific breed bans. And in Michigan, the answer is yes, you can. A city council can get together and pass an ordinance that would ban specific breeds. But in about 20 states, you cannot do that. So it's a little controversial here about specific breed bans. You can always ban vicious dogs, and most cities that I know of have dog rules like vicious dog, you have to keep your dog on a leash, etc. But in this case, legally, the short answer is they can do it.
But Charlie, how do they enforce it? Because as I understand it, if you currently have a pit bull, you don't have to get rid of it, but you can't add pit bulls to the community.
Grandfathered in.
So that's the grandfather clause.
How does a city enforce this?
So there's two questions there. The grandfather clause in general, let's get to that in a minute. How do you enforce it? That was actually one of the arguments to not ban pit bulls because it's very difficult to enforce. And if it's, as I understand the ordinance, it's a pit bull mix. And a lot of these dogs are how much percentage, and you have to have expert testimony from a vet to somehow do a DNA test as to whether or not the dog is a pit bull or not. So it is very difficult. Plus the cost of the police, law enforcement to go out there, and if you see a pit bull, you've got to do a whole history of the pit bull. It is difficult to enforce. However, the city council voted 4-3. It was a very close vote, but they did vote to ban it. Now, the grandfather, they also put in a grandfather clause. So, in Grosse Pointe Shores, if you currently have a pit bull, you can keep it, but you have 30 days to get it licensed, and you have to show that you've got at least $100,000 of insurance coverage. So, as I understand, you got to prove that. Now,
how do you get that insurance? Is that a rider on your homeowners?
Probably not a rider. Hopefully your insurance coverage, your homeowner's coverage will cover that. But check it just to make sure.
Yeah, Charlie, does this mean anything for other communities in our area? Like when one community bans pit bulls, if somebody else wants to join in on this and say, yeah, I think this is a good idea, would this be precedent for something like that to happen? Or do you just?
I think it's a great. Yeah. I think it's a great question. But a lot of cities, I just looked a little bit about Mount Clemens and the Center Line and Harper Woods and Highland Park, and there are many other cities. They have pit bull bans already in place, so it's not that unusual. Now, is this a knee-jerk reaction to the Detroit Lions walking his dog? Perhaps. There are a lot of people who are they love pit bulls. There are groups of pit bull rescues that are really very, they don't like these bans. Banning vicious dogs, no problem. But just the breed itself, without any regard to its past history, no, a lot of people don't like that. But in this case, and in Michigan only, not Michigan only, there are a number of states. The majority of states allow it, but there are about 20 states that don't allow specific breed bans.
And to do this ban, they don't have to have necessarily any solid evidence about the breed. It can be kind of whatever the emotion is.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
To say, because
10 years ago, it would have been Rottweilers.
We all know
Yes.
of pit bulls that are delightful dogs. I think we can say we know people who own them, who love them like family members. But
is it? I'm still confused. So if you wanted to buy a house in Grosse Pointe Shores,
Yes.
tomorrow,
Yes.
and you had a pit bull,
Yes.
you would have to make the choice of I'm either buying the house or I'm keeping my dog. You cannot have both.
Correct. That's correct.
And according to you, that's whether you want to live in Harper Woods or any of those other cities.
You can't live in Harper Woods. They have a ban. There are many other cities, so you have to check. The other thing is you got to be careful on insurance coverage too. You want to have insurance, and I don't know so like this lion, for example, that bit the dog. The question: can the dog owner, the victim dog owner, sue the owner of the pit bull? And the short answer is yes, but they're limited in what damages they can get. They can only get, for damages, the cost of the medical bills, and probably that's it. And if the dog died, unfortunately, you only get the value of the dog. You don't get pain and suffering. There's lots of cases on that through most of the country. Just because it's your companion dog and you've loved it and your family, but you don't get pain and suffering because courts treat dogs as property.
Wow.
Not as people or companions.
well, and the dog did not die, by the way.
Did not
the dog
die.
did have
Did
to
not
have
die.
his leg, elderly dog, had to have his leg amputated.
3 surgeries,
Just a sad
16 grand,
situation.
now has 3 legs. The owner of the dog that got bit says zero feeling on the side because while she was trying to break it up, she too got bit.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
It's a terrible, terrible.
It's really sad.
Terrible thing, but again, it's very emotional. But the law is pretty well settled in this area because there have been lots of cases. But it does differ in cities and in states. So if you're thinking about moving with a pit bull, check your local ordinance. And if you go to another state, even check the state's law as well.
It's great advice.
Yeah, some of the younger producers who live in apartments were saying that they have all kinds of breed bans in their apartment buildings, and so it can get even more specific.
Which is private, so there's a lot more leeway with private bans versus government bans.
Yeah.
You have a little let it rip action tonight?
We're doing baseball or football today,
baseball
isn't it?
tonight. Baseball tonight. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, baseball tonight.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know you missed it last night, but you can go and get it. It's on, it's online. It was very, very good.
Fox2Detroit.com. We'll check out Let It Rip that happened last night.